A couple of screens. Esquivel to Garcia. Off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria!
There's Warner. Here comes a headed jam. Counted for two. The field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved. What a game.
Perez, that's my play, off the
Backboard counting and a win!
and a win! Brian Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go nuts, and why not?
Well, welcome one and all once again to another Luke Fruia show. I'm Jacob Young. This is Rio Sports Live Network talking sports here at Luke Fruia Motors. It's going to be an exciting one. There's a lot to, of course, unpack here from, of course, high school soccer to, well, sports in general. Of course, we finally have the two teams that will be facing off for a national championship game. And yeah, it's an exciting time of year once again for everything. Sports in the RGV. Yes, of course, football is officially done and dusted. We had the All-Star game, of course, this past weekend on Wednesday at Bobby Lackey Stadium up in Wesco, Texas, Wesco High School to be exact, because Bobby Lackey Stadium, that's where it is located, is not too far away from Wesco High School. It's like a little off campus of Wesco High School to be exact, but it's right there. And so it's nice. It's kind of like, of course, McAllen Veterans Memorial Stadium, if anyone has ever been there. It's not too far off of McAllen or Mackay's campus to be exact, and so it's kind of like that is what I'm trying to get at. We had that, of course. We had some basketball games, and now we'll have some basketball games this weekend. Yes, this is where normally news for the RGV slows down a bit, but this is going to be a big thing, of course, as we look into it. Is going to be a lot of off-season transfer news for the UT RGV Vaqueros football team. I'm going to try and keep up to date as much as possible on that because it's pretty fun to do. I do that a lot with, of course, Texas A&M football, and so that's, of course, a big thing. It's just, well, there's going to be transfer news. There's going to be players transferring out of UTRGV to try and get starting spots at D1 FBS colleges, which, of course, if we've talked about that before here on this show, what the difference is from FBS to FCS. FCS, they play for a different national championship. Those are schools as Illinois State, Montana State, North Dakota State, and there have been some teams like James Madison University that used to be in FCS. They moved out of FCS into FBS and have shown that they can be successful in that. So there are some teams that end up moving over. Delaware State is another one that moved over from FBS or FCS into FBS. Another team that ended up moving back into FCS, if I'm not mistaken, that was Villanova, because we all know Villanova well in the basketball side of things, but they have themselves their own football team, and it's in the FCS rankings. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of mid-major teams, as we would call them, that are in FCS that don't necessarily have an opportunity to almost ever make it to FBS. But now with this transfer portal, things can change very quickly, and that's kind of course, the cool thing. And yeah, exactly. So that's going to be fun. We'll talk a little bit about that, I think, because it's very exciting to see that there have been some transfers that are going to get to play D1 football, FBS football, and Power 4 conferences, too, including the Big Ten. And so, yes, there's going to be a lot to, of course, talk about. I'm going to talk about, of course, the two soccer matches that RSLN covered last night, Rio Sports Live Network. I was at McAllen Memorial and Sherryland High, both boys and girls soccer games, which was very exciting, but I'll still talk a little bit about the boys soccer, or about the bigger matchup, the Battle of Southmost, to be exact, for Porter and I almost said Waters Lincoln. Porter and, of course, none other than Brownsville Lopez. That one was a fun soccer match in itself, too. Like I said, we'll break that down here on this show here this afternoon. One of the things, of course, to break down today is going to be none other than, well, of course, what we have in store for you all for the rest of this week. As we go over here to our schedule. Our schedule will feature on Wednesday, of course, the Luke Fruia show. But after this one, nothing is set in stone on Thursday, but we do have some on Friday for you all, from boys basketball all the way down, which is pretty interesting to say the least. At 6 p.m., we start things off with boys basketball at Edinburgh North, off right after. That's going to be, of course, at Edinburgh North High School. Jay will get to cover that one for you all here on Rio Sports Live Network. That's going to be off of RSL2 for both of those games. How about the BIC network now? After that, we'll most likely have Brownsville, Hanna, and Harlingen High School for both of those games. 6 and 7:30 p.m. will be the tip-off times on BIC and their channel. At 6 and 7:30, Los Fresnos and Brownsville Veterans Memorial. That's at Los Fresnos High School. That will be covered by Rudy Z and Tony T. It's going to be on RSL 1. So the big game on RSL 1 right there. RSL 3, how about that one, is going to be at Harlingen South. 6 and 7:30 p.m. tip-offs. And they're going to be against Brownsville Pace. Should be an exciting one there on RSL 3. And then the last one on the Bloodhound Network, there is some soccer. That's at 7 p.m. Wesco and St. Joseph Academy. That's going to be interesting as well as Wesco. Why the reason of why they're still playing, of course, non-district soccer. It's as simple as this. When teams like that have to play non-district soccer, it's really simple because, well, for 31 5A and 32 5A and even, I believe, 31 or 35A, and potentially 29 5A, they have so many teams in their district. It's about over 9 to 10 teams in their district. What does that mean? What does that put in forward? Well, it's really simple. They have to start early in order to end by that date. Now, for 6A, since a lot of those teams moved down to 5A, there's been a lot less 6A teams from football, basketball, baseball, whatever the sport may be. And so they don't have a lot of teams in district play. They have maybe 5 to 6 teams in their district, so they don't get to start district play until 2 weeks later at least. And so, of course, that creates, well, teams like Wesco High, teams like Harlingen High School, and others in those realms, even, of course, the Edinburgh schools, they have to face off against teams that are non-district that they don't get to play. And so a lot of those non-district schools end up being a St. Joseph Academy, end up being a Marine Military Academy, end up being, of course, also, they end up being a lot of idea schools, too. And so it creates an interesting form, an interesting turn of events for just the way that these two teams, or the way that those teams get to get ready for their districts. They don't get that opportunity that much to play in or to play against teams like the Brownsville schools, like the Harlingens, or even, of course, the McAllen schools, to be exact, especially in girls soccer, of how dominant that is, because they have to wait a long time to play against real competition in general. And I say that, of course, with a grain of salt, because still, yes, you can play most likely against your district opponents. The only problem is most likely that's not going to count towards district. The difference between soccer, basketball, and, of course, that baseball realm of things, or even, of course, you go down to softball, you go down to volleyball. What is the difference there? There are so many different tournaments, it's not even funny. Because of there being so many tournaments, week in and week out, those teams that have the lighter districts as in not as many teams as the upper valleys or lower valleys have. They don't get to play against those, or they are able to, well, be able to go that far. But the difference is, of course, they don't have it in soccer. So it's kind of the difference. It's kind of the cooler part about soccer in general is how quickly it starts and how quickly things get heated. And what I mean by heated is there's just big rivalry games right off the start. The matches matter so much more because there's only so many of them because they have to get this season done by spring break. Basically, is that last week of play normal. And now, of course, with the divisions, it's kind of interesting because the divisions don't necessarily, they matter, but the districts still stay the same. McAllen Memorial, Mackay, Sharyland High, Sharyland Pioneer. This is just in 31-5. The Nicky Rowe, of course, and the Edinburgh Villa. Why do I bring those teams up specifically? McAllen Memorial, they're technically in Division 2. Mackay are in Division 1, yet they will still fight for the same district championship that they normally fight for. That's the crazy part, is that they will still fight for the same district championship, but will be in two completely different divisions fighting for a different state championship. Now, I, for one, didn't love it at the start, but I now love it. Why do I say it like that? Well, it's because, well, there's multiple opportunities, even in boys soccer, for state championships to come back to the RGV. And that's the truth. And I'll go back to it. That's going to be exciting. And this is a perfect transition for us to go into what were the games like last night for the two big ones that that Rio Sports Live Network ended up covering. And this is the coolest thing. For RSLN, the first game really that I'll start off with was the match that I ended up being at was, of course, McAllen Memorial taking on Sharyland High School, both boys and girls soccer. In the boys soccer realm of things, this was the biggest kind of answer that we had. Was Sharyland High School going to be that legit in the beginning? Because they have those rankings, and let's, before actually we do that, let's dive into those rankings because I did see them posted about a night ago. That was something interesting, to say the least, for the soccer rankings from RGV Soccer Coaches Association. They do this all the time. And that's, of course, the thing that you can see all the games from everyone. But the best teams in each division from 4A, let's, of course, start off with that. This is the 4A boys, of course, Progresso, Valley View, Hidalgo, Brownsville, Rivetta, Riverview. Check that. Brownsville, Riverview, and Idea Far. Those were the top 5. And in the girls, 4A girls, Idea, Riverview. Valley View is number 2. Hidalgo, number 3, with Riverview being number 4. Just Riverview, not Idea Riverview, which I believe would mean Brownsville, Riverview. And then Brownsville, Jubilee would be rounding out the top 5 in 4A girls. And I forgot that Jubilee is in 4A. They are a very strong team to look out for. As for 5A boys, Sharyland High, McAllen Memorial were tied for number 2. Check that. I think it's a little backwards here. And what they meant to do was McAllen Memorial over at at 5A girls. So Sharyland High, number 1, Lopez, number 2, Porter, number 3, Pioneer, number 4, Harlingen, number 5, Harlingen South, number 5, Riverview, Rivetta, number 6, and PSJ Memorial, number 7, with Nicky Rowe, number 8. That was on the 5A boys. How about on the 5A girls? Most likely McAllen Memorial, Mackay, number 2, Harlingen South, number 3, Nicky Rowe, number 4, Ed Gauchelson, number 5, Donna North, number 6, Edinburgh Villa, number 7, and Palmview, number 8. That's on the 5A girls side. Now, how about the 6A boys? Harlan, Los Fresnos, Economies, Brownsville Vets, San Benito, Edinburgh, actually, check that, La Jolla, and Westago. And that rounds out, of course, your 6A boys. How about for the 6A girls? You have, of course, none other than Harlingen High. Westago is number 2. Los Fresnos is number 3. Number 4 would be Edinburgh North. Number 5 would be La Jolla. And number 6 would be Brownsville Vets. So that's pretty interesting to see. And it's kind of the way that we expected it. So with all of that being said, and with how those teams fared out, this was the biggest match that we could kind of think of was right off the bat, Sharyland High and McAllen Memorial. Even for girls soccer, we knew that for the girls soccer ranks, Sharyland High were going to try and fight to kind of get back into the playoffs. Top 4 teams make it into the playoffs for 31 5A, particularly, and that was a big thing for McAllen Memorial. Can McAllen Memorial win district once again? They won district now this past year, and that was a big just opportunity for them to take their first match. Of course, we have all talked about this on the show. Kennedy Kaiser out of now going to be Oklahoma University. And that's very exciting. How would she fare out in her first district matchup for her senior year? Right off the bat, McAllen Memorial able to get that first goal. Kennedy Kaiser slots it home, bottom right corner, back of the net. It's 1-0. Second goal comes off of the left side of the box. Slots it home, beats the keeper. That's number 2. Check that. Third goal was an absolute screamer. These all happened in the first half, by the way. Kennedy Kaiser able to take advantage of miscommunication by Sharyland High School, gets it back, creates the space, goes just a little bit to her right to create that space near the semicircle, takes the shot, and it's in the left corner, beats the keeper, and it's 3-0. Absolutely amazing. And that was her brace at halftime. Opportunity, though, in the halfway through that second half, Kennedy Kaiser able to be in the right place at the right time. McAllen Memorial still looking for that fourth goal. They go for it. The keeper makes the save, but rebounded by Kennedy Kaiser. Slots it home for her hat trick to start off the district season with 3 goals just like that to open up district play. 4-0 Sharyland High School. That's something that they'll have to look at throughout this, of course, season. It's, of course, against the number 1 team in the Valley and a team that will be state ranked pretty soon, if I had to guess, if they have not been. So that was a big victory for McAllen Memorial. They get the 3 points that they had been looking for at the start of the season, and to start off their campaign 1-0. That's a big thing in general. A reminder, of course, they go by points in this sport, and in the way that they keep the district, the top 4 teams, of course, go into the playoffs, and that's a big thing. You get 3 points for a victory, no points for a loss in regulation, but both teams do get a point if they draw in regulation, and then they would go to PKs to fight for that last remaining point, which in a lot of cases makes a difference in whether or not you're going to be a district champion or not, as well as, of course, the biggest thing is to make the playoffs, as we've seen how close it comes into the end of the season. And, well, that's, of course, a big thing in general. So heading back into this season, how has it been so far? Well, like we mentioned, it's the start of it. McAllen Memorial got that big victory. Now, how about in 32 5A? We have, of course, the final scores for you here. This was the biggest thing for the girls' soccer match. It started Actually, the boys soccer match started first, and we'll get you with that very quickly. So we will get you with that. Trying to find the score very quickly. Yeah, it was actually the boys match started at 5. If I'm not mistaken. Either way, I saw 2-0 at halftime for the boys soccer match. The final for the boys was Lopez 3 and Porter 1. So Brownsville Lopez taking care of business. That was actually at Sam's Stadium. So Sam's Stadium, of course, was in a delay for a long time. That's the reason why for Rio Sports Live Network, for RSLN, they had a lot of games for football that were done at Brownsville Veterans Memorial Stadium and the Brownsville Sports Park for a while, as Sam Stadium was trying to finally finish up their stadium, and I didn't realize how big of a job it had to be. They were destroying the track and field around, or the track around it. They grabbed new turf. They evened out the surface, all for soccer as well as football. And so that's pretty cool. And now they will have big games there, big matches there. It won't just be at it won't just be at their home high school fields. I would expect Brownsville Veterans Memorial will want to play their matches there. But as for Lopez, depending on what matches or who that they play, they may do a lot more games at Sam's Stadium, at least once a week or twice a week, Tuesdays and Fridays, since really that field isn't being used at all until really track season, if I had to say so. And even then, right as I said that, wait, they've destroyed the track, so no more. It's just going to be soccer. So I have a feeling that they're going to have a lot of their soccer matches there, especially when it comes down to a rivalry match, which is very exciting to say the least. We're just getting ready for all of that. So moving on, of course, that was the first one. The Lopez 3, Porter 1. Brownsville Porter just struggling. They lost not too long ago against none other than Sherryland High School. So we were wondering how it was going to kind of come back into it. So this was a big thing in the girls' soccer realm. Lopez 0, Porter 0 in regulation. So both of them secured a point. Lopez ended up winning in PKs 3-1. So what does that mean for the PKs, or what does that mean? Well, Brownsville Lopez secured 2 points in the end, and 1 point for Brownsville Porter. So pretty cool there that Brownsville Porter and Brownsville Lopez, of course, the battle of Southmost, won by Brownsville Lopez on both realms of things. Now, I haven't talked about the boys soccer match because it was pretty interesting, and it was a very, very tightly contested match, to say the least. 2-0 was the score in the end. How did it come down to being 2-0? Well, in that first half, the biggest thing was that Sherryland High were able to attack pretty well. But right at the end, McAllen Memorial were able to kind of get together and start to make it seem like Sherryland High were kind of on their back foot, which that's exciting, to say the least. Didn't end up happening the way that they would have liked it to. It was, I believe at the end of the first half, was 2-0, if I'm not mistaken. I'll double check that for you all here in a second, because that was an exciting first half, to say the least. Just because it felt like McAllen Memorial were going to get one back before the end of it. So yeah, I'm just quickly kind of looking at it right now. Yeah, it was only 1-0 really at the first half. And so, yeah, at halftime it was 1-0. And so in the second half, Sharyland High are able to boot one through. And again, we'll give you, of course, that player that ended up booting that second goal through the back of the net to secure the victory. And he ended up being our player of the game because of that. That second goal was key, and that was Takumi Meza. Meza gets that second goal to make it 2-0 in the end of that match, which is phenomenal for Sharyland High School to continue their chance at potentially going and heading to state. Winning that district championship is going to be big for that team. McAllen Memorial, of course, they come off of a loss there. How will they be able to respond? It doesn't get any easier for that team because not too long from them, they will be playing against Sharyland Pioneer, as well as this upcoming weekend on Friday night will be against Nicky Rowe. McAllen Rowe, a little bit of, well, not a little bit. It is going to be a rivalry match this upcoming Friday at McAllen Rowe High School. That's a big game. Who knows how that one will end up favoring either team. Now, I'm looking forward to that one in the weekend slate of soccer matches that we will have. Because who really knows how it's all going to play out in favor any team. McAllen Rowe, I remember talking to, of course, a head coach and a player this upcoming for the upcoming season at the media days, and one of the biggest things that the coach constantly harped on was for the girls' soccer, just about everyone's back. They're very frustrated that they lost in the first round against none other than Ed Couch Elsa, and they want to avenge that loss and go into that second round and potentially that third round, because that's where things get extremely difficult. And the biggest thing as well to look at is how McAllen Rowe during that season, they barely made the playoffs to start everything off. And so they're just looking to have a better season overall in general and to secure that third spot as soon as they possibly can and be that the best of the rest, almost, to say the least. Because right now we know that the top two teams will still be McAllen Memorial and Mac High. Maybe not necessarily in that order. They still have a long ways to go until they play each other, which is going to be very, very fun. And hopefully we will be there to bring you all the coverage of both of them. And not just one of the games, but both of them. It's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out and how it all works out, because I'm looking forward to that match as well. Just on the girls' soccer side, and on the boys' soccer side will be the same way, because that district, it's up for grabs. Even on the boys' side, we take a look at it very quickly here as Sharyland High. Yes, it looks like they're most likely going to take district, but you don't know that for certain, because Pioneer High School have a lot of their players back, and even McAllen High, they look like they can be a danger and just a united team in general. And so that's going to be big. Didn't necessarily get to talk too much to, of course, Mac High. So that's going to be interesting, to say the least. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to this season, though, and what the joy can bring to us for this year, because there's a lot of teams on the outside looking in. There's a lot of teams that are really good this season, and that just district for a lot of places will be up for grabs. And those top four teams, I don't think, even in girls soccer, will be the same. We're talking about potentially not only for a Pioneer Diamondbacks to be in the playoffs for a second year in a row, but possible Edinburgh Vela back in the playoffs too. So just, it's going to be exciting. Those last two spots, I think, will be up for grabs, and it's going to be interesting to see how that all plays out. Same on the 32 5A side, where already Battle of Southmost brought fireworks on both the boys and the girls' side. So we're looking forward to bring you all that coverage. We're going to take a quick break, as it is officially half an hour, and we'll be back with, of course, more talk. We'll move on and talk a little bit of course, college football, as it is officially, of course, National Championship Week. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Rev up your future with Texas Southmost College's Auto Body Repair Program. In just 2 semesters, you'll gain the skills to become an auto body repair specialist. Learn using industry standard iCar Academy to get you job ready fast. If you're ready to drive your career forward, TSC's Auto Body Repair Program is the place to start. Classes are filling fast, so visit tsc.edu and apply today.
Elevation, AT4, AT4X, Denali. Case closed. Fruia GMC, we're professional grade.
Kenny Perez came from a small town in Texas. At Kenny Perez Law, we won't stop fighting until our clients get what's rightfully theirs. We're right by your side, no matter what. Call Kenny Perez Injury Lawyers today, 956-999-1111.
Turn your passion into a powerful career at Texas Southmost College. Our automotive technology program will train you in everything from maintenance to full vehicle systems repair. Earn a certificate or associate degree and get certified to work as a C maintenance or B-level technician. You'll be guided by seasoned instructors who have decades of real-world automotive experience, helping you get ready to roll into the industry. So take the wheel and apply today at tsc.edu.
Back we go once again to hear from Luke Fruia, Buick GMC, and Cadillac off of Price Road, Old Alice Road to be exact. And, well, it's an exciting day. Once again, I'm Jacob Young. This is Real Sports Live Network, RSL in. It's finally, well, it's 2:34 p.m. here on a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. But for the first time this week, the sun is finally shining. It is over 60 degrees. It is 79 degrees Fahrenheit here in Brownsville, Texas. It's absolutely gorgeous as a low here tonight of, well, 52 according to Google. It's a low of 40 up in Edinburgh here tonight as well. So just an absolutely gorgeous day. The wind is not necessarily too calm, but it's still nice. So very exciting. Well, we talked a little bit before the break that we will talk a little bit about some football for you all. And yes, it is talking about the national championship game that is going to be Indiana taking on none other than the Miami Hurricanes, the two least likely teams to make it to the national championship game. Ended up being the two teams. And we go back to it. The only reason kind of why, or not necessarily the only reason why, but you look at the way that it was all kind of done. I don't know. I didn't see Miami making it at all. I didn't see even an ACC team making it to the playoffs, to say the least. And that's right off the bat, of course. They ended up snubbing Miami, putting them against Texas A&M, snubbing Texas A&M of a better seed in general. And, well, Texas A&M, what they get, chance to play at home against Miami in the windiest game I've ever been to at Kyle Field. 10-7 ends. Win is Miami. The Hurricanes win. They move on to the Cotton Bowl to face Ohio State, team that hadn't played in about a month. They destroy Ohio State to go and play in the semifinals against Ole Miss, who had ended up beating Georgia. Shockingly. Ole Miss plays against Miami, Florida. It's back and forth, and then they lose. Miami makes it. That's their road to the finals. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. So let's go back to it. For Indiana, they had the least likely chance to make it. They were the 1 seed, and how it felt had the toughest road ahead of them, as they were undefeated. Their first matchup that they had to play against was not easy in the slightest. That was on New Year's Day against Alabama, and absolutely decimated Alabama, which was shocking. Alabama, of course, had to face off against OU, and the Oklahoma Sooners blow a 17-point advantage on that Friday night to help Alabama have a chance at a national championship from that first round. And Alabama, of course, they weren't playing well that whole entire season, to the point of where, yes, they had 3 losses and made it through. Their third loss, of course, being in that championship game, the SEC championship game. And so it was shocking for them to make it past Oklahoma. So, I mean, let's go down to it. The number 1 Indiana Hoosiers versus number 10 Miami Hurricanes in the CFP National Championship set for Monday, January 19th. So this upcoming Monday, which will be very exciting. It's at Miami, Florida. It's their Hard Rock Stadium. Guess what? That's Miami's home field. The Miami Hurricanes do not have a field on campus for them to play, a stadium on campus, because they have a deal with Hard Rock Stadium and the Orange Bowl and all of that, and that's where, of course, it is. It's at that Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Florida. So, Indiana enters, of course, undefeated at 15-0. We all know this, of course. They did not lose their final game. They have not lost all season, is what we're trying to say here. They played against the Oregon Ducks, and that ended up being the Oregon Ducks' only loss throughout the regular season. Fernando Mendoza makes a crazy last-minute drive and beats Purdue. Check that, not Purdue. Beats Penn State at Penn State. Absolutely amazing drive to win it. And at that point, everyone were thinking, oh, okay, that is not a team that is worthy of being a 1 seed in the CFP, is what it seemed like. You go down the road, Indiana keep destroying teams, Ohio State keep destroying teams. They looked like 2 different teams in general. And then Indiana play Ohio State in the championship and beat them. That was a crazy run in itself. Miami, of course, clinched its spot with a dramatic 31-27 Fiesta Bowl win over Ole Miss, capped by a late drive and TD. They're seeking their first national championship since 2001, and of course, we all know that Indiana, they've never won a national championship in football, but they've won national titles in basketball. And so, well, when you think of the Indiana Hoosiers, you do think of basketball, how successful they've been. You think of the Purdue Boilermakers, you think of basketball as well. And that's just because of how successful both of these two schools have been at basketball in general over the years. And the Indiana Hoosiers, it's so true because it's not that I've watched a lot of their games, but I kind of saw their up and up, meaning that they were knocking off a couple of teams here and there. They had their opportunities and then are still undefeated this final season. And last year, of course, they make the playoffs, but they weren't an absolutely insane team. Fernando Mendoza was still good, but there was still a lot that had to be done for the Indiana Hoosiers, which gives me hope as an Aggie fan, of course. Let's move on, of course, to the odds and really storyline. It's, of course, the Heisman winner is Indiana's very own Fernando Mendoza, who leads a high-powered offense and faces his hometown crowd. And that's the thing. Of course, I say Miami or Indiana's very own. Well, it's because Fernando Mendoza has been going to school at Indiana, but he's from Orlando, or he's from, of course, Miami. And so he lived there all of his childhood. So this is a big game for this kid. In general, going back home and facing off against Miami in general. He was going to go back home either way if they had made the national championship, but this is an even bigger storyline now because of it. And then, of course, the ticket demands have been insane to the point of where ticket prices, you're talking about $25,000, not even at most. The official entertainment, of course, it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out. The recent, this reminds me a lot, and this is the truth. It reminds me of the FCS, the Division I FCS national championship. The reason of being Illinois State had never won a national championship, and the national and Montana State hadn't won a championship since the 90s. So it had been a while for Montana State and for Illinois State. They had never won. And so I kind of go back to thinking about it. And that's kind of the coolest storyline to go, is both of those national championships, they're coming down to something like this, which is exciting. This was the craziest part. Is the reason why Miami are in the national championship to begin with. Let's look at their regular season. If they don't defeat Notre Dame, they're not in the national championship. They're not in the playoffs at all. For Fernando Mendoza, if they lose to Penn State, do the CFP hold them so accountable for that loss that they kick them out? Probably not, because they only have one loss. Texas A&M probably ends up having a 6 seed. Things changed that much to where the Texas A&M Aggies would have been playing against a James Madison, or check that, Tulane. They would have been playing against Tulane. That is your difference in how it all played out. Because remember, Texas A&M ended up beating Notre Dame. Texas A&M still beats Notre Dame, but before that, if Notre Dame defeats Miami, we're talking about most likely that being the difference. And Notre Dame stealing Miami's spot. Just crazy to think about, really. So it's going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting game. I'm looking forward to it and seeing how it all plays out. I do expect Indiana to be victorious over Miami. I really do. That's just where I look at it. The Ole Miss loss to Miami was a little frustrating just because they didn't come out as strong as they could have. And then I look back at it. It's been a fun season. It really has. And this is why I love college football. Because it has storylines at every single turning point. So it's pretty cool. Anyways, we're going to take another break. When we return, we will close out the show with talking a little soccer. And, yeah, we'll go from there. We'll be right back after this. Stay tuned.
Rio Grande Valley. Join us as Texas Southmost College in Brownsville launches its 100-year celebration with a Centennial Conjunto Festival you don't want to miss. Tejano legend Michael Salgado takes the stage with a special appearance by Sonny Sauceda. It's free and open to the whole familia. Live music, food vendors, a beer garden, and only good allí. For more info, go to tse.edu/conjunto.
This summer, settle in and reconnect with one another. South Padre Island has so many great places to stay. Condos, resorts, and hotels. Oh my! Book your summer getaway today. And start making memories poolside with the people you care about most. Visit SoPadre.com.
It means a lot to me. TSC has changed me to make me realize that I can accomplish things. Just don't give up. I've come a long way from where I was to what I am now, and there's no limit to where I'm going.
Back we go once again to hear from none other than Luke Fruia Motors, Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. If you're in the market for a new car, come check it out. Of course, here at Luke Fruia Buick GMC and Cadillac. We talked a little bit about, of course, college football. Now we're going to talk about soccer. It does retain with the Valley. This is a big thing in general. It's the league for clubs. This was interesting, to say the least. As we all know, the League for Clubs last year introduced a team that was for the RGV, and that was the none other than RGV Red Crowns. Great team in general. We've interviewed, of course, the owner, the president of operations, everything, Colby Fayad, on this show. And we'll probably have him back on here very soon, if I had to say the least, as it's, of course, a new year. It's getting closer and closer to already the season. We're talking about 3-4 months away, really, before we really start to get ramped up with everything and seeing all the players' names coming in and all that fun stuff. I mean, we're talking about April mainly is when we're going to start to see that type of news, because that season starts like right around the corner in late May. So that's very exciting. Let's go back to it. Well, it's about a year since, and, well, the League for Clubs has officially named a team BTX Soccer Club. Brownsville Soccer Club. Established in 2025. Now, how is the BTX Soccer Club? How did that come about? Well, it's pretty simple. There were talks for a while that the USL were going to add the team up in Brownsville for the championship. That was the USL, though. They were trying to just expand the USL to try to make it look worth more because they wanted to sell the USL. The owners did of the USL. That was the biggest thing and what they really wanted to do. So you go back to it. That was kind of the gist of what I think all the media members got. Well, it happened to be from that, there were some, what seems to be ex-owners of the Brownsville FC that wanted to start up a club of their own, and it's to the League for Clubs. And really, it kind of goes back to, Harlingen has a team. They're successful right now. Brownsville can't necessarily allow them to be that successful and on their own. Look, when I first heard of it, I wasn't too pleased. But now, looking back at it, okay, here's the case. Very excited for a legit rivalry here in the RGV. It's going to be absolutely outstanding to have Harlingen, the RGV Red Crowns, taking on Brownsville, Texas Soccer Club 2 times this year, home and away. And it's going to be worth something when these two teams play against each other and whoever wins or potentially draws, because there's going to be a legit rivalry right off the bat. There is some bad blood between these two clubs already, and they haven't even played a minute. And this club has barely been in the league for a minute, too. So it's a lot. There's a lot of bad blood right off the get-go. That has a lot to pertain to behind the scenes. And so I'm guessing as well, just knowing how it feels of how FC Brownsville have retained everything and how they've kind of gone down the line, and then how for the RGV Red Crowns too, and then all of a sudden, close to a year later, it doesn't feel like a coincidence that the League for Clubs added Brownsville Texas Soccer Club just right off the bat. It had to be scheming right from there just because, well, now, okay. It also goes to, okay, where will this team end up playing? Brownsville FC, or Brownsville FC, sorry, the Brownsville Soccer Club. Most likely will be at the stadium, but we don't know that. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to a legit rivalry that will feel like the Portland Timbers, Seattle Sounders, things like that. I even asked ChatGPT because I was just curious. Create a trophy for this, and what will the title be, and all of that. And I was just curious of what it had to say, and it created a very nice. It created a very nice design in a way. Fields are not sponsored, built to survive for years of travel and locker rooms, doesn't rely on league money or hype, grows organically as rival. It goes with the base, the La Frontera Cup, Harlingen versus Brownsville, established in 2026. Sides would include removable metal plates for year-winning club over time. The base tells the rivalry story without words. So, of course, that's really the coolest thing in general. Was just right off the get-go. It was talking about, and it would be called that La Frontera Cup because, well, that means something to around this one, and it'll be very cool. Subtitle, of course, Harlingen versus Brownsville, short, powerful, and regional. This is something players wear on a shirt without cringing as well, and that's true. And so, yeah, it would mean something And that's going to be so much fun. I hope that that's, of course, the largest crowd at Harlingen Field, of course, at Brownsville's Field, too, because it just will mean something very special. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that and seeing how it will play out because, I don't know, something about it is going to be special, to say the least. Yeah, it's going to be a cool rivalry. There's nothing more to really say about it. Besides, it just feels the way that it happened, I think, adds more layers to this rivalry right off the bat. And that's just, of course, my take. I don't know the full story. Let me be very clear on that. I will learn the full story here very soon, I'm certain, because that's just, again, it's something that adds layers to this season for the Red Crowns, the RGV Red Crowns. So looking forward to it. Looking forward to how it will all go down. And, yeah, we talked about, of course, the national championship today. We talked about, of course, the soccer matches. We talked about what is upcoming for RSL Network this weekend. And, yeah, another thing to, of course, say is I am from, of course, McAllen. Good luck to all the marathon runners this weekend. It is officially that time of year. It is that time of year for the marathons to really begin. And all those top runners, of course, what do they want to accomplish? Getting to potentially compete in that New York City Marathon, the Boston Marathon, all of those fun things of that. But, of course, like I mentioned, it is that time of year, especially for that soccer season. It's going to be very fun to see who will come out on top from the RGV. Remember, I didn't even really touch up on the 4A ranks of things. That's going to be exciting with 3 teams fighting to get to state as well. Hidalgo High School, Valley View High School, and then Progresso. Progresso bringing back just about everybody. That's going to be something to take a look at, indeed, for this future. But yeah, I can't wait for it. I really cannot wait for this to be something for this soccer season. But let's, of course, end it here. One of the things that I've also looked at pretty closely as well is because here at, of course, Luke Fruia Motors, and I know that they don't really talk about it too much, but I think this is one of the coolest things. One of the person who comes out on all the commercials is John Edge. John Edge is a former Aggie. He played football with the Texas A&M Aggies, and that's one of the coolest things. And, of course, my book, we all know myself as a Texas Aggie, and going to so many of those games in general just this year and every other year that I have been able to, it's been awesome. And so just to have a former Aggie who you can trust as well from the Valley, it's really cool. We've had a lot of D1 athletes who have played Division I football or basketball here in the RGV. It's crazy to think about, and it's awesome. And it's crazier to think, okay, it started even more back in the day before we were born, too, or at least before I was born. You know, we talked to Steve Alanese on this show as well. He's a former Notre Dame Fighting Irish football player, too. And so it just goes down the road of those things and them being able to out of those